Hello, this is David Parrish, and I want to thank you for joining me today on my video blog. World Missions and Evangelism is a ministry that is dedicated to helping facilitate the Great Commission's fulfillment. And WME has missionaries all over the world, and we have mission projects all over the world and are touching many people in many different ways through our missionaries and the mission project. Our primary goal, our primary focus is making disciples, because that's the Great Commission. Jesus said in Matthew 28, "Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey all things I've commanded. And lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age." Today, I want to focus on that teaching to obey all things I've commanded part of the Great Commission. For the last several weeks, we've been talking about what is WME's strategy. You know, different organizations, different ministries have different strategies that they are using to advance the gospel and do the Great Commission. And if someone were to say, well, what is WME's strategy? I think I can answer that question with a word, and the word is Instar. Instar is a word in Spanish that means to urge or be urgent, because there's nothing more urgent than obeying Jesus and fulfilling the Great Commission, to take God's word to all people groups. And Instar is a word in Spanish that means that, but Instar, each letter of the word, I-N-S-T-A-R, describes our strategy, and the strategy that we are intentionally implementing, and specifically we are implementing it in Latin America. Now, WME has missionaries and major mission projects in Africa, missionaries and major mission projects in Asia, Europe, Australia. But our pilot project for a disciple-making movement project is in Latin America, and we got started in the nation of Honduras. And we began to kind of conceive of that project in 2006 and deployed some missionaries in 2007, but really began training Honduran leaders in 2008. So for years we would call it our Honduras project. But now, not only is this project touching Honduras, but it's touching Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Costa Rica, and Colombia, in addition to Honduras. 7 nations in Latin America. Now, our goal is to see all 21 nations of Central and South America touched, and to see disciple-making movements happen in all peoples until there is closure. That is to say, until all have heard, until every people group has heard the gospel, and until there's a church planting or disciple-making movement operating in every region, in every area, and in every people group. We want to see that happen. We want to be facilitators with that. Now, we're not going to be able to do that alone. That's not something that WME is doing on its own, or our organization or our project is doing all by ourselves. But it is something that we want to be facilitators of. We want to be helpers of. And that's where the Instar strategy comes in. In the last 3 videos, I've talked to you about I, which stands for intercession and identification. We're cultivating prayer. We're trying to develop a prayer network for the peoples of Latin America, Honduras, and beyond, all these nations and all the people groups, and to see that there be a intercession rise, because it all starts with prayer. And then through that, there be an identification as the Lord begins to show us and make connection and open doors. Where's the next region? Where's the next open door? Who's the next people group that we can begin to work with? And so that's the I. It's really the intercession and identification. N stands for networking, and that comes down to the idea that we can't do it alone. And what we're really doing is we're working with churches and missionaries and mission ministries that are already at work in Latin America in various ways, and we're helping them. We're networking together. And we're coming and we're saying, where do you need help, and where can we come in and be a partner with you? And that's the N, network. And that leads to the S of Instar, which means serving, because when we network with people, we want to be a servant. When we network with people, we don't come in and network with the idea of being the boss. We come in and say, can we wash your feet? Can we help you? That doesn't mean we're always able to help, but with our ability, how can we be a partner with you and help you in the ministry that God has called you to do? That's the I and the N and the S. And as that happens, God gives us relationships, and He brings people into our path and ministries into our path who have a heart desire to disciple their region or disciple their people group. I'll never forget my meeting with Jim Martin, who leads a wonderful, great ministry called Honduras Ministries, based in Tegucigalpa, but ministering in the very south part of Honduras. And I already knew Jim from years past, but we reconnected a few years ago, and I remember meeting with him over a meal and just saying, share with me about your ministry. And he began to tell me about their educational ministry and about their feeding ministry and about the areas of the clean water project that they had. And he began to share some needs. And as we sat there and as we talked, the Lord began to show me, and it just immediately came to me, I began to understand. I say the Lord showed me, but I believe I give Him the credit for it. Immediately, here's a way that you can help. Here's a way that WME can come in and help with that. And I told him, I said, I believe we can help with one of these projects or even two of these projects. And there was a great joy there. And then he said to me, he said, my heart is to make disciples. We want to see a church planting movement. We want to see a disciple making movement happen. And so that opened the door to the T. T stands for training. After we intercede and identify, after we network and serve, then comes the opportunity to train people. And because of what we've seen happen over these last several years, we've gained experience in specifically how to apply the disciple-making movement / church planting movement strategy specifically in Latin America. One of these days on one of these blogs, I will take the time to tell the story up to the present of what has happened since we started. It's been an amazing journey in what we're now calling the Instar project, but was originally just the Honduras church planting movement. It's been an amazing story from the time that God birthed the vision to the time that we deployed missionaries there, to the time we began to train. It's been a dangerous vision. There have been times when our leaders have been threatened. We've had attempted violence. People's lives only been saved by the miracle of God. We've had people killed in this project. It's been a time where there's been exciting things, but sometimes scary things happen. And it's been a journey of 2 steps forward and 1 step back sometimes. We've encountered spiritual warfare. We've encountered all kinds of things. And in the process, through it all, we've seen God's hand move forward. Until now, there are 521 groups and churches as a result of this project. And I'm recording this in May of 2014. But the amazing thing is that even in the last year, to reach that, it was like 283 a year ago. So what I'm saying is there's been almost a doubling of outreach in the last 12 months. Well, that's the hand of God. But this project, we went down there. We knew the principles. We had been trained by people that were seeing results, amazing exponential results in India and Africa. And we had received training, and we had trained leaders, and we had gotten out and begun the work. But it wasn't easy. And so in these last since the day the vision was born, 8 years, but it's since the time we actually started training people, it's been 6 years, 6 years this month, since we first trained the very first Latin American leaders. We not only have some head knowledge now, but a lot of experience, and we've worked on adapting this strategy specifically in the Latin American, predominantly Roman Catholic culture type of orientation. And we have found ways to adapt and to train and to help equip people specifically in that culture to apply this training. And so out of what we now have learned and what we're now seeing as a result on the field, it's our commitment to now train others. So as we intercede and identify places of need, as we network with ministries that are there serving in a variety of ways, to the physical needs of people, to educational needs of people, to a variety of needs, to economic needs of people, now through networking and serving with them, we're also getting the opportunity to train leaders. And that's what we want to do. We want to train others with the benefit of what we've learned in these past 6 years of intense ministry in Latin America. And so training becomes kind of the pivot point on everything. What we're about is training. And what are we training people to do? What is the Great Commission? He said, teaching them to obey all things that I've commanded. You know, that makes it practical. When Jesus said what to teach people, he didn't say teach them head knowledge or teach them doctrine. Those things are important. But he didn't just say teach people information. He said teach them to obey. In other words, make it practical. What has God said to do in the Word? How can we do that? How can we apply that? And so that's the training component of the Instar strategy. Now, next time I'll talk about what A stands for, and then the next week the R, and you'll get a picture of what it is that WME is doing through networking, serving, and training in the world. How God is using a group of humble leaders in Latin America to help facilitate a movement that is touching thousands of people right now. Thank you for your prayers. Thanks for your attention, and we'll be talking more about this in the next video. God bless you.